Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today I'm very excited. I get to review two Behemoth rye whiskeys. One of them comes from Buffalo Trace. It is part of their BTAC, Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. It's the 2024 Thomas H. Handy. I know I'm a little late on that. That's okay. Most people don't get their hands on this anyway, so the fact that I got some of it late, I'll take as a win. The other one is the Boss Hog from Whistlepig, the Boss Hog 11. It's called the Juggernaut. We'll get into that one as well. $600 MSRP for the Juggernaut, $600. And then for the Thomas H. Handy, you're looking at about $150. But that's assuming you can find a bottle of it. Now, I had the 2023 Thomas H. Handy. I've also had like the what was the year on that one? I had a really old one, like or late 2000s, like before 2010 as well, which was pretty incredible. But anyways, so now I get to try the 2024 and the Juggernaut. So the Thomas H. Handy 2024, it comes in at 127.2 proof, 127.2, so pretty hot. The age statement on it is 6 years and 3 months. So you may be asking yourself, why the heck is a 6-year-old rye whiskey so hard to get your hands on, and why is it 150 bucks? That is a great question. Well, as far as I know, statistically, it's tough to justify it. The only thing that can justify a $150 price tag for a 6-year-old barrel-proof rye would be the flavor, right? It just has to taste good enough to warrant spending that much money on it. Now, there has been actually this year, the 2024 year, there's been some pushback on the BTAC pricing. Whiskey writer and reviewer Jordan Moskal, who you may know him from Breaking Bourbon. You've even read some of his reviews without knowing it was him. But he's kind of been making this point too, where he's like, listen, it used to be 150 bucks for this made sense because it was kind of a novel thing. Like people weren't doing barrel proof ryes that often. Nowadays, that's not a unique thing at all. Most distilleries that make rye whiskeys are offering their rye at barrel strength as well. So it's not, if you walked into Total Wine right now and walked over to the rye section, you would probably have at least 24 different options of rye whiskeys from different distilleries at cask strength. It's not a novel thing anymore. So it just has to be good enough to warrant the $150 price point, because you can get a barrel strength rye from a lot of different places, 60 to 80 bucks. Just saying. So let's get in on this, yeah, shall we? First and foremost, though, a little visual inspection. Semi-oily, semi-viscous, not super thick and viscous or oily, but it does have some runs that are going down the side of the glass, if you can see those. On the nose, a lot of citrus on the nose, which is not uncommon for me. I usually think of, with the previous handies that I've had, the previous Thomas H. Handies I've had, I can get myself in trouble. They have all had that uniform citrus note that makes me think of like a lemon rind that maybe you twist it over a cocktail and it expresses those lemon oils, just kind of that little puff. I juice my own limes and lemons for cocktails at home all the time. That's like my favorite thing is when you get, got the hand pressed juicer, the stainless steel, and when you crunch that thing down on a lemon or a lime and you get that puff of oil. If you do this yourself, you're very familiar with this puff of oil that happens whenever you do that. All these oils get expressed into the air. You breathe it in. This reminds me of that, which is a great note. But it also kind of like a holiday spice kind of a vibe to me as well. Think of like a holiday punch or wassail, or a holiday tea of some kind. A little bit of clove and spice as well. It's a really aromatic pour. Lots of oils and spices and black tea come to mind. Well, let's get on the palate, shall we? Cheers. Well, it's not bashful at all. It packs a punch. 127.2 proof right up front. Bam! Nice little sock in the mouth of a rye on the first sip. And we'll definitely do some follow-up sips as well. But what comes to mind initially, right up front of the palate, it is that black tea and the clove and the spice is really what I get hit with, this big wave of aromatic spices and holiday spices. But then it's really late into the finish. It's like after I thought the finish had done its thing, I suddenly get hit with this sweet kind of like candy corn sweetness right on the tail end of the finish, which was not something I was expecting, but a pleasant surprise. Let's go back in for sip number 2. Fresh cracked peppercorn. It's not shy, it's very forward. Okay, so what's the verdict? I think I liked 2023's better. This is not bad at all, by any stretch. That is far from being a bad pour, but I think that 2023 had a little bit more complexity to it. This one's big, bold, brash, hits you with that lemon zest, and plenty of those aromatic spices. And like I said, that sweet candy corn note that comes late in the finish, but a lot of oak as well. It's just really hard, isn't it, to justify the hunt for one of these bottles unless you're a collector. I think for me personally, I would happily have it for $150, but I probably would not be going out of my way to, spend secondary pricing on this bottle myself. If I found it at MSRP, I would probably pick it up just because, having a BTAC bottle is worth something, in this community, and being able to take that to bottle shares and offer it to people who don't have the opportunity to taste it and get their hands on it and share it with your friends. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do. But I think it's starting to get to the point where maybe we need to start reconsidering the pricing on this. But they never will. Honestly, it's going to sell out every time they put it on shelves. It's going to sell out. So they don't need to readjust those prices anytime soon. But I kind of wish they would. Let's move on to the Whistlepig Boss Hog 11, the Juggernaut. I'm really interested in this one because I've liked a lot of the previous Boss Hogs. I really think they're always quite interesting. They're an experience pour. It's not something that you're like, oh, this is a daily sipper. They have tons of character, right? And the Juggernaut is no exception. I find the name interesting because you read the description and I'm like, do these things match up? I don't know. I think a Juggernaut, I think of something that's like beefy. You know what I mean? But this is going a different direction. But I've been interested in this one ever since I saw that David Tao is one of my favorite writers. He writes for VinePair. And I follow him on Twitter as well. You should too. David Thomas Tao. Follow him. Nice guy. But anyways, I did not read his review of this, but I did see that he really enjoyed it. And he's got a palate that I tend to trust. So for me, previous Boss Hogs have been like really about being an experience, but it's kind of weird at the same time. Sometimes they can be kind of weird. But he was like, I would actually reach for this one again because it was just really good. So I'm excited to get in here and see what I think about it. But it is inspired by, I believe this was the master blender. She really liked, I think it's pronounced Tundai. It's spelled like Thandai, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Tundai, but it's spelled like Thandai, Thandai, right? But anyways, it's like an Indian beverage. Well, not just India. I think a lot of South Asian countries have a form of this drink. But it's like milk, but is spiced up with nuts and spices, right? Very heavy on like the spices. And so I think that the Master Blender was inspired by that and decided to try and do a Tundai finish on a non-age stated Canadian rye whiskey. And that's what this is. That's what this pours. Now, it comes in at 103.8 proof, 103.8 proof, but the price is $600. We just talked about justifying the price tag on this one. This one's got to justify a $600 price tag, which is insane. But also you get like this really ornate and elaborate bottling scheme that they always do with their Boss Hogs. And I think this is a blend of Canadian and American whiskey, by the way. But per the press release, this is what Whistlepig said about the Tundai whiskey barrels and how they made them. Because here's the thing, like you can't just put milk in a barrel and let it sit. I don't think that would go over too well. I think you might throw that barrel out pretty quickly afterwards. So the question is, how are you going to do a Tundai barrel? So this is what they say in the press release, what they did. Whistlepig's experimental team combed Delhi's Kari Bioli spice market for, I probably butchered all that, but Delhi's spice market for ingredients to create the world's first Tundai whiskey barrels. These unique finishing barrels are seasoned with a marriage of aged rye with saffron, cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, fennel, poppy, and black peppercorn. So all those spices, they season the barrel with those spices. They just save the milk, right? Well, let's not put the milk in there. So anyways, very spicy barrel is what you've been left with, and then they finish the whiskey in it. Now, your proof point might vary depending on which barrel yours came from. Because my understanding is that it is single barrel, so your proof point might vary. Holy cow. The nose on this thing is crazy. It's like walking into a loose leaf tea specialty shop, right? You ever go to like a loose leaf tea specialty shop that got all these canisters of different spices and herbs that are dehydrated, and you can make up your own bags to steep your own tea at home. It's like that, right? It's like being in a place that just has tons of different spices and herbs and leaves that have been dehydrated and just kind of laying out for you to choose from. That's what this reminds me of. Or like walking into an old antique store, some of those notes as well. This doesn't smell a lot like whiskey to me. It smells like a place. It smells like something old and classy and well maintained. Like if I just close my eyes and smell this, I've never been to a spice market in India, but if you told me that's where I was and I breathed this in, I would totally believe you. But I'm also getting another note in here, just a little bit of like applesauce, like cinnamon applesauce on the nose too. A little bright fruity action. Welp, it's time. Cheers. I gotta say that like cinnamon applesauce note was like the first thing to hit my palate, but after that it was a tidal wave of those aromatic spices, your clove, your cinnamons, your nutmegs, baking spices, things like that. But they have a little bit more of an exotic kind of a twist to them, not just your typical coffee cake kind of a thing. And it kind of coats everything in there. I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it. I will say this, it is right in line with the other Boss Hog expressions that I've had, in that it is wild, right? It is offbeat, it's a little madcap, and I appreciate that about this pour. That aspect of it, I do like. But do I actually just like enjoy sipping this? I really don't know. I'm being honest with you guys, I'm not sure yet. I can't say if I do or I don't. Let me go in on it again. I keep expecting those spices to sort of tame down a little bit with subsequent sips. And I don't know that it does tame down, but I am starting to get a little bit more of that apple kind of a note, like an apple compote kind of coming through. Like your apple pie filling, maybe, but without the pie crust. Man, I think for me, this is like a maybe. Do you like it? Maybe. I really don't know. I don't know if I can fall off a log. Because there's parts of it where I'm like, maybe not. That's where I'm at on this. This is a confusing pour to me. It does have a strong sense of identity. I don't mean confusing as in like it just doesn't know what it is. It's more like I don't know how I feel about it. But it definitely has a strong sense of identity. It makes sense as a Tundai cask finished rye. It makes sense. And obviously all the work that goes into tailor making those barrels probably means it makes sense for it to be $600 a bottle. But would I spend $600 on that bottle? I have no idea. Maybe. So that's where we're at today. Thomas H. Handy. This is really good. $150? Maybe. This is really interesting. $600? Maybe. I hope you found that helpful and conclusive. But more likely than not, you're probably just going to leave this video as confused as I am. But I thoroughly enjoyed this experiment. On that note, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it so that I know that you did. And feel free to check out our Discord community. Totally free to join. Link is in the description of this video. You can hop in there. I punched my microphone. I apologize if that came through. You can hop in there, meet some great folks. We have wonderful people in the Discord. Love to talk about whiskey and share our hobby together, share our collections with each other. Sometimes we do bottle shares and things of the sort if you want to get involved in our activities, which we're now sort of in the planning stages for a couple new ones. But if that's something you want to get involved in, obviously you can join the Patreon group. It's only $1 for the base tier. It's basically free. It gets you access to the Patreon lounge. You can see what we're doing and how to sign up. With that, I say cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.